The Super Bowl is tomorrow, but you're not sure what you should make for your Super Bowl party. I have the perfect dish for you, and it is seven layer dip. Not only is this a tried and true Super Bowl classic, but seven layer dip is actually an amazing food inflation tracker. This is a story I did for Bloomberg Business Week. And for the story, I teamed up with Nielsen IQ. They track a lot of grocery store prices to look at exactly how much each ingredient had increased since 2021 when food inflation really took hold. Okay, so let's start with our base layer. Every seven layer dip recipe you will see always starts with refried beans because I think they kind of stick to the bowl. They're solid, you can count on them. So refried beans were $2.59 at my local grocery store in Brooklyn, and refried bean prices have been pretty steady for a few years. But the price of refried beans has risen more than 200% since 2021. And the reason has very, very little to do with beans and a lot to do with the can they come in. Ever since the pandemic, the price of the materials that go into packaging, that would be aluminum and paper in this case, and also the price of labor have risen a lot. They really peaked during the pandemic and then they never really came back down. The second layer of our seven layer dip is the guacamole. This layer of the dip was by far the most expensive. For me, it cost me $13. The price of avocados is up over 20% just from last year. And of course, with the tariff threats against Mexico, that price could go even higher. We get more than 80% of our avocados from Mexico. Lime prices are up more than 30% since 2021. And we import almost all of the limes we eat from Mexico. So layer three, sour cream with taco seasoning mixed into it. Now, sour cream is the sweet spot in our food inflation tale because sour cream's price has remained almost totally steady for the last 4 years. It hasn't really risen at all. What's more, most of the dairy that we consume in the US is domestic, so sour cream is pretty tariff proof. Now, for layer number four, this would be the shredded cheese. Cheddar cheese has gotten about 7% more expensive since 2021, which is pretty tame. What's more, we might actually see the price come down if there are tariffs implemented against Mexico because the US exports a lot of cheese to Mexico. So, if we put tariffs in place against Mexico and Mexico retaliated with tariffs, we would probably see the supply of cheese in this country go way up. So, for consumers, the price of cheese would go down. So, if avocados and limes are suddenly out of reach price wise, we can eat our feelings with cheese. Now for layer number five, the salsa. Much like its place in the dip, salsa is kind of right in the middle when you look at what's happened to its price. Prices are up about 14% since 2021, so significantly, but not huge. Now for layer number six, black olives. I am honestly not sure what olives are doing in this recipe, but I went with it. I paid $3.99 for a jar of olives. Now, the price of olives hasn't moved much in the last couple years, but since 2021, the price of olives is up more than 30%. Also, we get most of our olives from Europe, from Italy and Spain. And now Trump is talking about implementing tariffs against the European Union. This brings us to layer seven. Now, there's some controversy over what the seventh layer should be. Some say shredded lettuce, some say corn chips. I opted for ground beef. I was hoping for a kind of deconstructed taco vibe in my seven layer dip. Now, beef has been on a price journey skyward for years now. There was a drought in the Southwest, which caused a lot of ranchers to shrink their herds down, and herds take years and years to build back up. So the ground beef costs about 6% more than it did last year and almost 30% more than it did in 2021. Of course, there is the tortilla chip, because what good is seven layers of dip if you do not have the tortilla chip to hold space for it all? I paid $5.99 for a big bag of tortilla chips. Since 2021, the price of tortilla chips has risen about 30%. Overall, our seven layer dip is about 4% more expensive than it was last year and about 25% more expensive than it was in 2021. Now, here is the amazing part. If you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics food inflation tracker, the overall food inflation has risen about 23% since 2021. So here is my seven layer dip. Didn't get the layer definition I was hoping for. Here it is. I mean, it's delicious.